Some games don't grow on you. They don't need to. You pick up the controller, you play for maybe 30 seconds, and something just clicks. You're not warming up to it. You're already hooked. You didn't choose to be, it just happened. This happened for me with games like Super Mario Bros., Sonic the Hedgehog, Halo. If you were a gamer in the 80s, 90s, or early 2000s, at least one of those hit you like that. You knew before you even finished World War I. You knew before the first Covenant firefight was over. But here's the thing that kind of messes with you once you see it. That instant feeling that, oh yeah, this is it moment. That wasn't you deciding anything. Now, we've got a pretty comfortable story we tell ourselves about games like these. We call them classics. We say they just felt right, that they clicked, that the design was so good that you could feel it immediately. And that's why they're the ones we still talk about 30 years later. And look, that's not wrong exactly, but it kind of skips over the actual question. Because these weren't just games people happened to enjoy. They were games that converted First Contact into massive cultural momentum. Super Mario sold over 40 million copies. Halo crossed 1 million units in North America in under 4 months. A game like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater turned into a franchise worth more than $1.4 billion. That doesn't happen because something just felt right. That's a result of something very deliberate. Here's what's actually bothersome about the "it just clicked" explanation. You couldn't have actually evaluated these games in the time it took to fall for them. You hadn't seen the entire game yet. You had no idea how deep the thing went. You were maybe 30 seconds in, but you were already sold. Mario teaches you everything you need to know in the first screen. You're being trained before you even realize you're learning. Sonic was built specifically around speed as its whole identity, and the Halo team had one central obsession. Haima Griesemer described it as needing to nail what he called that 30 seconds of fun. If they didn't crack that, nothing else mattered. You weren't judging the full game. You were reacting to a very carefully managed first impression. If you felt it instantly, it wasn't a conclusion you reached. It was a reaction they built. The first trick these games pull is making you feel like you already know what you're doing. In Super Mario Bros., that first Goomba isn't just there, it's placed. It walks toward you slowly, out in the open, at the right height. You can jump over it. You can stomp it. Either way, you handle it, and it feels like instinct. But Shigeru Miyamoto has talked about this directly. The player needed to be taught through the environment itself, not through a tool tip or text box. The result is that within seconds, you feel competent. You feel like you've already got the hang of it. Now, compare that to a series like the early Mega Man games. And I say this with love because Mega Man is awesome. But drop into that first stage and you are immediately being tested. Enemies are arranged in waves that build and then ease off, and you're adjusting on the fly. You're not dominating, you're figuring it out. Mario protects your confidence. Mega Man makes you earn it. And that's not a knock on either game. They're both brilliant. But the difference in how they feel in the first 60 seconds is massive. Because early competence doesn't just feel good, it makes you feel like the game was made for you. You've already built a little identity around it before anything hard has happened. This is the moment where most games either grab you or lose you for good. The second thing these games do is kill hesitation before it even shows up. With Sonic, the first move you make is go right. That's it. No ambiguity, no, wait, what am I supposed to do here? Sonic is fast, the level is bright and wide open, and within about 5 seconds, you're flying through it and collecting rings, and it feels amazing. The feedback loop, move, go fast, collect stuff, feel great, is up and running before you've had a single moment to stop and think. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is the same deal. You could mash buttons and stumble into tricks, discover combos by accident, and feel like a legit skater within a couple of hours, well before you actually understood what you were doing. The game hands you the feeling of being good at it before the knowledge catches up. Now, go back and boot up the original Legend of Zelda with no prior knowledge. You hesitate. You wander into a cave, someone hands you a sword, and you stand there for a second going, okay, now what? So you start experimenting. You have to think. And that pause, that little moment of, is genuinely dangerous in the first 5 minutes. Miyamoto actually described Zelda's design as wanting players to feel like they were exploring a new city and getting a little lost, which is a beautiful design goal, but it's a patience ask. It requires the player to lean in rather than being pulled in. Sonic and Tony Hawk yank you forward. Zelda asks you to follow. Now both can work, but only one hooks you before you've had a chance to bail. The third thing, and this one is sneaky, is that some of these games just go straight for your nervous system. F-Zero came out on the Super Nintendo and used Mode 7 to fake a 3D sense of speed at a time when nothing felt like it at home. You weren't sitting there analyzing whether the game had depth. You were gripping the controller because it felt like you were actually moving at Mach speed. The sensation registered before any critical thought had a chance to show up, which honestly is impressive for a 16-bit racing game. Now Street Fighter II did the same thing, but through impact. The sound of a hit, the way a character reacted to getting clocked, the visual crunch of landing a combo, it communicated consequence and weight before you understood what half the moves even were. Now the flip side of this is a game like SimCity. It doesn't come at you. It asks you to come to it. You build slowly, you manage systems, you watch things develop over time. Now it too became genuinely beloved, but it was never going to sell itself in the first 5 minutes, and it didn't need to. So F-Zero and Street Fighter II go straight for the gut. SimCity shakes your hand and says, take your time. You feel visceral games before you understand them, and by the time you understand them, you're already committed. At some point in those first few minutes, a switch flips. You stop treating the game like something you're checking out and start treating it like something you're playing. You're not evaluating it anymore. You've quietly decided, this is good, I'm in. And once that happens, everything that comes after gets filtered through that lens. Rough edges are forgiven, frustrating parts get explained away. You're not judging anymore, you're rooting for it. The decision didn't happen at the end of a long playthrough, it happened in the first 5 minutes, probably the first 2. And the era these games came from made that window even more critical. In the arcade days, you had 1 quarter and maybe 30 seconds to decide if a game deserved another one. During the rental era, and if you rented games as a kid, you know exactly what I'm talking about, you had 1 weekend to figure out if this was worth the price of eventually buying. And at console launches, the first few titles had to convert people fast. Halo quickly became the reason people bought the Xbox in the first place. Miss that window and you didn't get a second chance. The game went back to the shelf or back to the rental place, and that was it. And here's where it gets interesting, because the effects of hooking someone fast don't stop at the sale. When millions of people have the same immediate gut reaction to a game, when that reaction happens before doubt gets a foothold, those games don't just sell well, they become the reference point. They define what a genre is supposed to feel like. Every action platformer after Mario gets compared to Mario. Every fighting game after Street Fighter II gets measured against Street Fighter II. Games that didn't hook quickly got left behind in rentals, in store demos, and launch windows before players ever saw what made them worth sticking with. This is usually where hidden gems end up. Whole genres evolved specifically to solve this problem. The conventions of the arcade racer, the action platformer, the pick-up-and-play fighting game, those weren't random. They were solutions to the challenge of getting someone hooked before they put the controller down. A game that misses the early window doesn't just lose a sale, it loses the chance to become part of the conversation. So now we understand what actually went down. We didn't discover these games the way we think we did. We were guided into caring about them. That instant, this is awesome feeling wasn't a neutral reaction to quality, it was the end result of a very specific sequence of design decisions. Enemy placement that handed you early wins, a ring system that protected your reckless speedrunning instincts, 30 seconds of combat refined over and over until it worked every single time. A game that made you feel like a pro skater before you understood what a manual was. The pattern across all of these isn't just nostalgia, and it isn't luck. The developers who made these games, whether they had the language for it or not, understood something fundamental. Before a player can appreciate how good something is, they have to decide to stay. And getting someone to stay means acting first. It means the game has to move before the player has a chance to hesitate. We didn't choose these games after thinking it over. They were built to hook us before thinking ever showed up. So I want to know, what game hooked you like that? And looking back, did it actually earn it? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, happy gaming, my friends.